All right, let us take a look at factoring a trinomial. Last time we take a look at how do we factor a simple expression and how do we factor by grouping. And now we continue to take a look at factoring a trinomial. So we first focusing on factoring a trinomial. Hey, what is a trinomial? It's a three terms polynomial. Right? We want to factor this trinomial ax squared plus bx plus c while a is equals to 1. So we first consider some simple situation like this. For example, I want to factor this trinomial x squared plus 4x plus 3. So how can we do that? Well, let us quickly refresh our memory. Okay, I try to. All right, let's take a look at how are we going to multiply two binomials together. So if I want to, let's say, multiply maybe x plus 4 times x minus 5. Then how can we do that? Well, we have a binomial multiplies a binomial, and this is not in any special form, so we cannot use any special product formula, so we need to FOIL them. So we are going to have x times x first, so we have x squared, and then minus 5x, right? We have FOIL that, so we have four-step distribution. X times x, and then x times 5, and then 4 times x, and then 4 times 5. Sometimes we remember this using the word FOIL, so remember we have four-step distribution. So the third step, what would that be? Plus 4x. And then the last one, 4 times 5, so we minus 20. This is how we distribute when we times two binomials together. So later on, we see that, hey, the middle two terms can be combined because the middle two terms are actually like terms. So we got the x squared minus x and minus 20, like this. So now we are going to do that backward. Indeed, factoring, we want to make this trinomial become something times something. So how can we do that? Well, then we take a look at this carefully. The result, negative 20. Where do I get that from? I have it from 4 times negative 5. Because we have the last terms times together. How about the middle one? Negative x. Where do I get that from? I got the combination from the previous two middle terms. Negative 5x plus 4x. Now, so indeed, when we come to a factor x squared plus 4x plus 3, we are going to make it becomes something times something. X and x over here. And then in these two spots, I am going to look for something. When they times together, it must be equals to c, the very last term in the trinomial. And when we add together, the sum must be equals to the middle terms, 4. Now, so we have two criteria. We have to make sure the times together is equals to C. When we add them together, must be equals to B. Now, so we start with the product. So we will list out, hey, what would be the factor of 3? I'm looking for two numbers times together would be equals to 3. So we will begin with 1. 1 times 3. Indeed, that is the only pair, only possible pair. 1 times 3 is equal to 3. How about add them together? Would that be equals to 4? Yes. This time, we know this is the only pair, and this is the right pair. So I could bring it here, plus 1 and plus 3, like this. Let's try another one. I want to factor x squared minus ax plus 15. So once again, I would make it becomes something times something. And it will begins with the x and begins with the x here. I'm looking for two numbers. Times together is equals to 15. Add together is equals to negative 8. So let's list out all the possible pair first. Let's find the factor of 15. Now let's start with 1 because 1 can go into anything. So I have 1 times 15. Then 2. Can 2 go into 15? Can 2 go into 15? No. Can 3 go into 15? Yes. 3 times what? 3 times 5. And then I should try 4. Can 4 go into 15? No. Can 5 go into 15? Yes. But I already have 5. So once I reach the other side, I'm done. Indeed, by doing this, then you will be able to list out all the factors of 15 in order. You can read the U shape like that, 1, 3, 5, 15. Right away, you got all the factors of 15. So always start with 1 and then 2, 3, 4. You should be able to do that real fast. Once you reach to the other side, then you know this is done. Otherwise, you know you're going backward. So let's take a look at this. I have two pairs here. 1, 15. 3 and 5. If I add them together, would that be possible to become negative 8? No, we have a positive number. How can we add it, make it becomes negative 8? That's not possible. So this time is a little bit special. We have to consider another possibility. I am going to give all of them negative. Negative 1, negative 15, negative 3, and negative 5. Because the middle terms is negative. Right now, I still have negative 1 times negative 15. Are they equals to positive 15? Yes, because negative times negative would be positive. The second pair, negative 3 times negative 5, would that be positive 15? Yes, I still have that. And now when I add them together, which pair would be equal to negative 8? The second pair. So I'm going to circle that. And so I will have negative 3 and negative 5 over here. So once I factor this out, I know it will become x minus 3 times x minus 5. Let's see another one. I will consider the factor of negative 12. Now first, we treat it as a positive 12 first. So list out all the possible pair. 1 times 12. How about 2? Yes, 2 can go into 12. 2 times 6. How about 3? Can 3 go into 12? Yes, 3 times 4. And then the next one should be 4. I'm going to try 1, 2, 3, 4 like that. But hey, look at the other side. I already have 4. If I continue, then I have the same pair. So I'm done. We have 3 possible pair. But we are looking for the factor of negative 12, not positive 12. So in another word, I would have to give the negative to one of the pair, one of them. Within the pair, I need to give one of the factor. I need to give the negative. So that when they times together, it would becomes negative 12. So if one of them would be negative, that means I'm looking for the difference. So which pair will have the difference of 4, 2, and 6? And now I have to decide I give the negative to which one. Give it to 2 or give it to 6 so that the sum would be equals to 4. I'm going to give it to 2. And so when they add together, it would becomes the positive 4. So now I can read the answer. That would becomes x minus 2 times x plus 6. So far so good. Okay. Let's see another one. I want to factor x squared minus x minus 42. So now I'm going to consider the factor of negative 42. So I have 1 times 42. Wow, 42 is a kind of a big number, but it's not bad. 2 can go into 42. How many times? 2 times. How many times? 21. Now, if you're having trouble with that, your dancing shoe would be very helpful. You just quickly check it out. 42 divided by 2, see what happened. 42 divided by 3, what happened? 42 divided by 4, and then you can quickly tell which one can go into 42. How about 3? Can 3 go into 42? 3 times 14. How about 4? Can 4 go into that? No. 4 go into 40, but not 42. How about 5? 5 times 8? Not quite, right? It's not ending in 5 nor 0, so we know 5 cannot. How about 6? 6 times 7. Okay, good. 6 times 7. Now the multiplication table is absolutely important. If you good at that, congratulations. But if you know you have weakness on that, sometimes I made mistake, I'm not quite sure, then double check with your dancing shoe. Make sure you got all the right pair. And then the next one I should try would be 7. Hey, but I already got 7. So that means I'm done. You see, even though it's 42, it's really not that bad. You just try it out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you can quickly find out all the possible pair. Again, it's a negative 42. So I need to give the negative to one of the factor. So I'm looking for the difference. Which pair will have the difference of 1 or negative 1? 6 and 7. So 6 and 7 would be the right pair. And I need to give the negative to which one so that the sum would be equal to negative 1. 6 or 7? 7. So I'm going to give the negative to 7. So now I can read the answer. That would becomes x plus 6 times x minus 7. So far so good. Let's see another one. How about if I want to factor 3x squared plus 30x plus 63. That is such a big number. And beside, hey, the a is not equals to 1. It's equal to 3. So we start shaking. Wow, indeed, it's not too bad. What can we do first? Factor out the 3 first, because if I take a look at all these 3 terms, every single term can be divisible by 3. So 3 is common factor. So I factor out the 3 first. So that would give me 3 times x squared plus 10x plus 21. And then after that, if I take a look at the trinomial inside the parentheses, it's not that bad. Now, but note that the very first step in factoring, you should take a look at if there is any common factor for every single terms. If there is such a factor, and you should factor out the common factor first. All right, now let's continue to finish that one. I have a trinomial inside the parentheses. I have x squared plus 10x plus 21. So I'm going to consider the factor of 21. It's a positive 21. So I have 1 times 21, 2, no good, and 3 times 7. 4 cannot go into that. 5 cannot go into that. 6 cannot go into that. 7, I already have 7. So I'm done. Which pair will add up to positive 10? The second pair. So I circle that. And now I can read the answer. It will become 3 times. Now don't forget the 3. You still have a 3 as a factor. The 3 won't suddenly disappear. I'm only focusing on whatever inside the parentheses to try to further factor out this. So it will become x plus 3 times x plus 7. So it's 3 times x plus 3 times x plus 7. So now let's try out another one. I want to factor 4x squared minus 4x minus 48. I have 3 terms here. Do they have anything in common? 4 is in common. So that is great. So I'm going to factor out the 4. So I have 4 times parenthesis x squared minus x minus 12. So now inside the parentheses, it's really not that bad. So I will have the factor of negative 12 to consider. I have 1 times 12, 2 times 6, and then 3 times 4. That's it. Next one would be 4. I already have 4. But it's negative 12, so I need to give the negative to one of the factors. And which one would be the right pair? I'm looking for the difference indeed. If one of the factor is negative and then I add them up together, so I'm looking for the difference. Which pair will have the difference of 1 or negative 1? 4, 3, and 4. Okay? I circle that. And I need to give the negative to one of them. Which one would that be? Give it to 4. So now I can read the answer. It would be 4 times x plus 3 times x minus 4. Okay. Now when you engage this type of problem, be sure to show work. List out the factor of negative 12 clearly, step by step. List out all of them. That is very important, especially sometimes you will get into some interesting situation or in the next part, and you will definitely see the reason why we need to do that. Do not take a wild guess. Remember, the answer is not everything, is not the only thing we are looking into. We want to understand how we get to the final answer. So expect your reader are not as smart as you. So show your work properly so that whoever read it, they can, by looking at your work, they can understand. A lot of time, students jump to the answer. Oh, I know how to do that. I do it in my head. Yeah, I got the right answer. Show your work. Explain how you pick those number. That is a very good reason. Later on, we talk about that again. Now, I think it's your time for fun. Let's quickly try out this. Answer